Hello everyone, my name's Dave and you're watching the latest episode in my current boat renovation project. If you enjoy watching these episodes, please remember to give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. It's the 1st of August here today in 2020, and here in Ireland this is the height of summer. It's windy, wet, cloudy and just overall miserable. The weather hasn't been great for the last few weeks and hasn't been really conducive for getting work done on the boat or work done outside, period. So I've been struggling between the showers to get bits and pieces done on the boat. I have been working on parts inside the workshop to try and progress the thing forward, and come along with me and watch this episode and you can see what I've been doing. Okay, from the last episode, one aspect of the interior of the boat that I wasn't overly happy with was the parts around the window that were made out of plywood. So I've decided to redo that, and making these parts out of solid cedar. And I'm going to saw out the shapes for the window surrounds out of them. So I've just joined them using the Cassamite glue and these joining bits here to glue it all together and clamp it all together. And I've screwed it to a piece of timber here behind on the outside edges just to try and keep it true and square and straight on that plane as well, so it doesn't twist too much. Obviously it could be shaped a little bit, sounded and stuff, but I'll keep it as true as I can. So I've made the two big ones now, and I'm going to make two smaller ones, and we'll see where it goes from here. That's a smaller one put together now, improvised clamp using a block screwed onto the piece of timber and shorter clamps, because I don't have long enough clamps to do the whole thing because I'm using them on the bigger ones, so that'll work. That's the second small one done now, so all four are done. Let them cure and then I'll have to see about sawing them out. Well, these have been setting up for a few days and they seem to have cured nicely, and ready for the next stage, which is sawing out the frames out of these square stock. Right, so I marked an arrow on this to show this is forward, and then of course on the other side I'll have to flip it over for the mirror image. So and there was the best side. I'll keep one of those edges as the true edge. Means I only have to cut out on one side and the outer edge. Well, obviously apart from the corners, but no point in making work for myself, is there? Right, so I have to fix this in place onto this template and then use a spacer to mark the inner edge. Right, so the outside edge, just in case of tracing around the outer screen. On the inside, just use this spacer. The edge. Well, that's just rough sawn out compared to the plywood one. I think it looks better already than the plywood one did. It's more in keeping with the look of the inside of the cabin and the tongue and groove and that whole natural wood theme. These are the new internal frames for the port lights that I've made. And I think they look a lot better than the plywood ones did. A lot more organic and rustic and chunky and in keeping with the design of the interior. You can probably hear there's a thunderstorm going on inside at the moment. Well, that's the bit in the center section. Made 2 pieces, one either side, and then a cap piece in the center where the mast step is, and have them just fit in place. I have to take them down to run the cabling for the mast and all that, but they're made anyway. Oh yeah, and I'll have to insulate behind that as well when I put the cabling in and so. But that's another bit done. Though the weather mightn't be nice for me or for any outside work, the flowers seem to like it in the garden anyway. The weather's been pretty miserable, so I've been doing some work on some parts inside here in my workshop, and I've been working on the bow pulpit. Now, I made some stainless steel parts for the bow pulpit, and I did them off camera, primarily because it's very hard to focus on filming and making precision sort of parts, and I don't have precision tools for making them, so I'm freehanding these parts and making them and drilling them out freehand with my drill. So concentrating on one thing at a time is difficult enough, but 2 things that are quite technical at the same time is pretty much impossible, and one's going to suffer. So I was going to make bad video, and either that I was going to have to make the parts more than once, and I certainly didn't want to do that because they were pretty difficult to make, especially the linkage I've made for the forestay. So I'll show you those now. Those of you that watched the earlier episodes of the boat refit will remember this bow pulpit, and those of you that didn't obviously won't. What I had to do with it, it was damaged, it was bent up here at the front, somehow or another the bolts going through had pulled up and had bent it out of shape. It was pretty light stuff, so I reinforced it, I actually doubled it up with another heavier piece of stainless underneath it and welded that on and strengthened the whole thing up. And then what I've done too is I've drilled out more holes, so there's extra mounting points for mounting it, and so obviously there's going to be a bigger mounting backing plate on the inside. And I've drilled these all to a bigger size, so there'll be bigger bolts, so it's all going to be heavier and stronger. And then I've made backing plates, so there's a backing plate for the rear one here, and there's a backing plate for the front 4 bolts here as well. That's going to bolt through there. So as well as that, this is where the forestay connects, and this was broken away. I had to re-weld this, put it back in place. So I figured that that's going to be a weak point again. Regardless of the fact that I've strengthened this, that's going to be a weak point. So what I've done to reinforce this is I made a bracket, and I fabricated this bracket out of the box stainless that I used to make the rudder connection piece for the rudder and the tiller handle. This stuff here. So it's a pretty substantial piece of stuff. So I cut out and shaped this and drilled out holes to bolt it through. So two of the bolts that go through and mount to this backing plate, the bolts go through that as well, which makes it stronger too. So it's bolted right, it's not attached to this plate, it's attached right through onto the backing plate, so it'll be as strong as it can possibly be. And then I drilled through the holes for mounting the turnbuckle for the forestay. So that clips onto, bolts onto there, and then this turnbuckle attached there. I made 3 different attachment points. There was 3 on the original one. I don't know if they're necessary, but I figured when I was doing it, I might as well just make 3 different attachment points anyway. It could be used for hauling up something else, like with a flag on it or something, whatever. But better have more mounting points than less. So that's all of that, and it's all going to be bolted on with stainless bolts. And I just have to get a dry day to do it, because we've had like warm enough temperatures. It's been around between 16 and 20 degrees Celsius, but it's been pretty much raining non-stop. It's like this misty drizzle stuff we get here in Ireland, which starts and never stops. So I'm just waiting for a day to get out and do this and mount it all in place. It's obviously going to be sealed with butyl tape when it's mounted in place, and then backed with backing plates and washers on the inside as well. So that's that, and it's just a case of getting out and sticking it on the boat. Right, so full disclosure, when I first mounted it the first time, my holes where they came through on the inside didn't leave space enough to get the backing plate properly on the front holes. So then I had to sort of bite the bullet and say, okay, I have to redo this. So I moved the whole thing back a little bit, and now I've re-drilled the holes, and I'm going to have to fill the holes that I drilled by mistake with epoxy, and then I'll get to fitting it on the boat. So just give you a look at that. So at the moment it resembles a little bit of Swiss cheese, but all the holes that have been countersunk are the ones that I'm using, and the other ones are the ones I'm going to have to fill in. This hole here more or less touched the hull on the inside, so there was no getting anything on the back of that one, which is kind of defeating the object of making the whole thing stronger and making backing plates. So that's the way it goes. Just going to have to mix up a bit of epoxy and fill these ones here now first. I drilled these ones out here too for the back attachment points. Okay, right, so that's it all mounted in place and tightened down, and the butyl's all squeezed out, which is a good sign. It has to be cleaned up, but I'll leave that until tomorrow, give it a chance to settle, and maybe put another couple of turns on each of the nuts. So that's it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of another episode. If you've enjoyed watching it, please remember to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.